So I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, the audition process or auditions that you've had, because
Uh-oh.
because I think that's like an anomaly to some people, especially that don't know the world, or maybe people that are just starting out that have different expectations.
Sure.
So there's a question like,
Mhm.
what was your view or expectation of what the audition process was like before you really dove into that world versus now that you've had a lot of experience doing it? That's kind
Oh,
of interesting to me.
yes. Well, look, I mean, I started out auditioning as a dancer. Are you asking about as the acting rooms, or are you asking about like? Did I just?
Well, fair enough. I mean, I suppose the acting rooms initially, but then perhaps from a dancing perspective, it'd be good to know too, because maybe different medium, but it's still that idea of you're the product, you're being evaluated or feel like you're being evaluated, especially if it's your first experience of that.
I can only speak from my own experience. So I'm gonna start off with what the dancing stuff did,
Okay. Oh shit.
and move into what happened
What
with.
what did it do, man?
Well, because and also it's actually a valuable thing. I'll explain why, but I guess the thing is the dancing stuff. Like the thing is, when you're training as a dancer in musical theater, singing, whatever else, you're just always in rooms and groups dancing, right? You do dancing groups and whatever else. You do it then in fours and twos. Sometimes you'll go and do a solo, whatever. In the audition room, when you show up, like it's usually a cattle call, and it was back then. I mean, we're talking like 2008 to 2010, 11 here. So you know you'd be showing up to a line. You may have group times or whatever else, and you go in groups. But then also you'll get cut on the spot. So like you will be in a room, and then you'll be dancing, and then most of the time you're just like, the CD production, whoever it is, the choreographer will go like, right, you, rest of you, bye, right. So I was very used to that already. I think the valuable thing that I took from that audition process is it just built my resilience. Like I was expecting, like at any point, to be like, cool. At some point, they're gonna say you and not you. That's cool. Like that's how it works.
And that's
Um,
brutal, right? Like for people that don't operate in that kind of world and have a
yeah,
regular job, that's hard to maybe comprehend because that's cutthroat. Like
yeah,
that can end, not end, but that can really hit somebody and keep them out of commission for a while. You have to be resilient, as you were saying, and have a real thick skin, because if not, that can get to you.
totally. No, totally agree with that. Especially with the day and age that we've moved into now, there's a lot more sensitivity around sensitivity. To if not for a better word. So, but I think like that was the greatest attribute I guess I got given as a dancer was that resilience was built into you.
Mm.
I've had a chair thrown at me for being off my mark before. You
Oof.
know, so that
Were
wouldn't
you
happen
were you
now,
in
but just
were
back
you in
then.
Whiplash? This sounds like Whiplash.
Yeah, JK was just there
It was
thrashing
just
the hell out of
thrashing
me.
you with chairs.
Yeah, yeah,
Or were
yeah.
you auditioning for some wrestling dance thing where they were just hurling you with chair shots? That'd be
That would
cool.
be a fun show to
I'd
watch.
I'd I'd watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, write that one down. We'll talk about that later. There he is. There's the
I'm not
thought.
dancing.
so, so I guess that they're moving into the look. It wasn't always like rainbows and butterflies. We were going, hey, yeah, sure. Like, obviously, I mean, growing up being quite an emotional person anyway, I definitely had some reactions. I was like, oh, and I remember this one audition. I was just so close to getting on board with this amazing agency that was just top of the game back in the day, and for dance, and this commercial dance agency. And I got down to the last three guys, and two of the guys were so well known in the commercial industry for dancing,
Mm.
and the counts just came in just a little bit too quick, where I wasn't able to start on time, and that was the other thing. Once that happened, my belief went out the window.
Oh,
You
because you
know,
just thought
I
it's
just
done.
thought, that's it. I can't catch up. I can't do it. That was going through my head whilst I was still trying to. I know I was literally about like two counts behind, which is absurd. So like where these two guys killed it, and that was it. That didn't happen. I walked away from that one going, God damn! Like I was coming to spot. I was like, when you work so hard, then it just drops. So I've had those feelings, but of course, I guess with the film and TV rooms, like it was my first major like film audition was with a casting director I knew really well. I was nervous as hell. Still, actually, I was about to say like it was more comfortable. I was like, no, I think even because I knew him too well, and I also did some work with him as an assistant too.
Yeah.
That I was like, I mean, the second take though, we absolutely nailed it. It was the first take I was a little bit scared. I just kind of like yeah, the role wasn't massive, but it was just, and I knew what that room was like. I even knew what it looked like. I'd actually read with people in there before as a reader, so I had all this familiarity. And I was thinking, like, okay, great. So this process of see these actors walking in the room, they're prepared, they're dressed nice, and they know where the camera is, but they can pretend that it's not there and just really engage with this other person and just do their thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, great. I know what that is. And then, but just walking into that space and having that experience from that point, like of, okay, cool, this is now where you deliver. Definitely threw me off for the first time. Like, I still got the words right, but my take wasn't essentially engaged. So I think like then just kind of just taking a moment to take a breath and relax and just take on the note and just go for it and really commit and be there is always the challenge in those rooms. Like if you want to, you've got to really know the story. You got to really just connect with it and like just like have a true connection with this story that you're doing right here, right now. And then just like, look, even if you have that reader, I get actors all the time talk to me about like how oh no, but the readers just talk like this, so I can't connect to them. No, bullshit. Of course you can connect to them. Like you just need to kind of just understand that you know how to communicate the story through your own medium. And you hear the words and that does something to you. If you hear those words, it has to do something to you. The words, like writers are really good. Like,
But I mean, what you're saying there with people who say that goes back to that thing of accountability again, right? Because you're looking for an out already. You're looking for an excuse to save you from even committing and going all in, because that's a mindset thing. I think
it's so important. It's one of the top things.
It is the top thing. There is no other. I mean, with anything, not just this, but whatever you're doing, like that's the game, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm with you, because I think everyone's had that period with auditions in the beginning where you have the nerves or you think you've got it down, but you don't, and you're learning the ropes. And for all anyone can tell you, and all the expert advice, and it's totally great and sound advice, and anything we might even say now that could help somebody who's just starting out, it still doesn't mean shit, because you still have to go through it yourself. Like, that's just my view on it. I think I'd heard all the great advice in the world, but I remember, some of my first auditions, and they were awful. And like, so in your head. My first audition was a commercial audition. It was with the casting director that you worked with. So I knew who he was, and it was a big name, and I was like, well, that was in my mind. And then I knew the buyout of the commercial. It was £25,000. So that's in my mind. And it's my first ever audition ever. And I'd had good training with some people, but not the best. My good training came after that. And I'd done a lot of technical screen training. And I remember going into the room and just looking at the person opposite me and not moving, but thinking that I was doing everything with my eyes, because you get all this bad advice for screen acting training where some people are like, you don't really want to move, you don't want to blink, don't furrow your brow, like, because it's distracting. So I remember, I'm pretty sure I was
be a robot.
And I remember, I think I was just sat there, and it felt like 5 minutes, but it must have been like 60 seconds. And I wasn't really doing anything, but in my head, I'm like, I'm doing stuff with my eyes. And then like they had producers in the room, and someone from like the far side, who must have been like the client, just said, okay, I think we've seen enough. And then we just switched over, and I had to then off camera do the other part for the other guy who was reading it with me. I gave him a great fucking read. I was giving him everything. And like my conversation and talk with the casting director was fine. Like, that was the best part. But my performance was dog shit. And it was like all this stuff, the person it was, the office it was, the fee that I could have got, the bad advice of like how to act full screen.
The pressure. Yeah, man.
And you just need to like blast out, I think, a few of them and then get used to it. And eventually, after a while, you just go, yeah, whatever. I don't care. It's like Mark Ruffalo's whole thing. If he did hundreds of auditions till he ever booked one, I think he just churn them out.